Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, good evening, depending on when you're watching this video. So this is the end of training video with MCIS language services. And if you are here, it means you have completed one of our training programs, whether it's classroom-based or online. So congratulations to you. You may be waiting for some exam marks to come back, awaiting the sitting of an ILSAT or SILSAT test. So don't worry about that. That's all going to come up. And for now, I would like to just give you this presentation. And it's basically explains how to work with MCIS in the future, how to maintain the relationship, future development, and general topics in that area. Basically, what now from this point on. So I'm going to begin a presentation, and then we will have a look at some of the topics that we will cover today. Okay, so working as a freelance interpreter for MCIS. Now that you have graduated from your training, we are going to most likely contact you at some point in the future for assignments. This is, of course, after you have completed all the training requirements and all the language testing requirements. Sometimes we will contact you even for assignments in your language, even if you have not fulfilled all the requirements. And that only happens when we don't have a fully trained and tested interpreter available. In other words, basically an accredited professional interpreter available, and we may need you to fulfill emergency assignments. But basically, when you go on an assignment with you, make sure you have the following list of things all the time. Correct date and time of the assignment. This is important, of course. Arrive at least 10 minutes early. Now, this is up to you. Doesn't have to be 10 minutes. Usually, when I go on assignments myself, I arrive 15 minutes early when it's to a new location that I'm not familiar with, just in case I have trouble locating parking or I have trouble finding the actual number, the street number of the structure I have to go into, or maybe the unit number itself. This is especially true for a large building like a hospital, which may be confusing even when someone helps you with instructions on how to get to a specific wing, a specific unit number. You may need some extra time, and you don't want to be rushed and sweating when you go into an assignment. You want to have some time ready to spare and basically get a feel of the surroundings. Dress appropriately. Business casual is good here. It doesn't have to be extremely formal, but of course sometimes formal wear will help. So that's really up to you whether you want how formal you want to be, but generally for gentlemen, a sweater or shirt will be good for the top. Uh, Pants at the bottom. Generally try not to wear jeans and running shoes. They're not good ideas. And for the ladies, suits, skirts, they're all okay. Usually try to avoid gym wear like yoga pants, for example, or running shoes again. So this is common knowledge. So always do the interpreter's introduction in two languages and try to keep it under 30 seconds. Any longer, of course, the participants may become a bit frustrated about how long they have to listen to you do the introduction, and they may worry about how long the assignment will take if you speak slow. So to both, here says the service provider and the client in this case would mean the non-English speaking person or the limited English speaking person. And of course, be impartial. This is part of your presentation, as a part of your introduction, pardon me. Do not engage in any small talk or side conversations or private conversations with the client. Part of confidentiality, impartiality, and role boundaries requires that everything said in the room is interpreted back and forth between all parties, and you generally act as the conduit, which means you're only the voice of the two parties, and you would not normally add your own input unless you are interrupting to clarify something, and this you do in third person, and whatever you say in one language, you have to say in the other. And the last point is fairly important. Do not build a personal relationship with the client or service provider or exchange contact information. This is generally not allowed. If you go on an assignment with MCIS, you can only give out the business cards the MCIS provides you. And if they ask you to keep your contact information, you can only ask them to contact MCIS. They may request you when they contact us again, but you should not leave your personal information. This is just part of professional conduct. Okay, at any time of attending an assignment, make sure you have the following in order every single time. Whenever they ask you to do something that's basically outside of your role boundaries or outside of the information that, like we mentioned before, the personal information, etc., uh, polite, politely decline by saying the following. You can also change it up and give your own words. I'm sorry, but the interpreter's code of ethics doesn't allow me to answer this question or doesn't allow me to give out that information. Basically, that's good enough. You are basically not offending either party. You're basically saying, as an interpreter, this is what you're required to do, and that's good enough. Now, if you arrive to an assignment before the service provider, do not start talking to the non-English speaking client before the service provider arrives. This is a breach of the code of ethics because, in a sense, you are building a relationship. You will no longer be impartial, and any information they relay to you during that moment, you will enter into an ethical dilemma whether you need to give that information out or not, especially when after during the assignment they begin giving conflicting information to what they told you in private. And this time now you'll be distracted by the conflicting information. You're not sure whether to disclose what was said to you or not. Technically, you're not supposed to disclose what they say to you in private, because it wasn't part of the interpreting session, unless someone's life is in danger or there is child endangerment. But it's still a distraction and it should not be done. And if the service provider arrives seeing you talking to the client, they will assume that you were having a side conversation and they will actually report you as behaving unprofessionally to MCIS. So try not to do that. Now, at the end of the assignment, you ensure that the service provider has signed your interpreter's invoices form together with the start and end time. The start and end time you may fill in yourself, but the signature has to be from the service provider. This is evidence that you have completed the assignment. This is evidence that someone is endorsing you for the duration of the assignment, which is what you will be paid for. Now, there is a 2 hour minimum. For some specific clients, it's actually an hour and a half, but this you will know in advance. But based in general, most of our clients, most of the assignments with the majority of our clients, we will pay you for a 2 hour minimum, and then the time will go up by 15-minute increments. So which means if you do an assignment for 2 hours and 18 minutes, it will be counted as 2.5 hours. Now, what you can expect from our company. You will be compensated for the time worked. We just mentioned the minimum time, which is 2 hours for the majority of the assignments. Cancellations. Now, in this case, cancellations mean that the assignment was canceled 24 hours before it starts, within 24 hours before it starts. If the assignment is canceled in less than 24 hours, you will actually be paid. It's called a paid cancellation. So you will be paid for that. Hold time, this is generally, it could mean two things. One is that if you are doing a telephone assignment and they put you on hold, you're paid for that hold time. And another, what this could also mean is that you arrive at an assignment and the people are late. So if you, so basically, if you are supposed to start an assignment at 2 o'clock, but like one party, let's say one party is there, but the other party doesn't arrive for 15 minutes, you're actually paid for that time. Now, this is different from wait time, which is where you see there, what am I not compensated for? How we define this wait time is when you are early for an assignment, you're just waiting for it to start before the designated time of assignment commencement, or the time that you wait in between two assignments. Perhaps it's at the same location, but there is a 1 hour gap in between where you can take a break. You're not paid for that 1 hour. Now, what is subject to negotiation is mileage, travel time, and parking in general. We will pay for mileage when the distance you have to travel is over 50 kilometers. That's automatic. But you can always negotiate that when an assignment, let's say it's 42 kilometers away. Discuss it with the the interpretation services coordinator or the IS coordinator when they call you, and ask whether you'll be paid for mileage. Same thing for travel time. Parking is generally not paid, but in some occasions it may be negotiable, especially when it's an expensive parking. Okay, what else? So when will I get paid? The finance department at MCIS will process all invoices twice a month, usually on the 15th and 30th of each month, unless it's a weekend day, and then it will be processed basically before that on a weekday. When the invoices are processed, the payment takes about another pay period to come. For example, if you submit your invoices on the 12th of this month, then it will be processed on the 15th. Actually, any day that you submit your invoice in between the 1st of the month and 14th and 15th of the month, they will all be processed for the 15th period. So you wait till the next pay period for the invoices to be processed. Once it is, payment will go to you on the 30th, which is the next pay period. So it's always one pay period to process, one to be paid. And payment will go to you, and the fastest way possible is via direct deposit, which means if you have a void check with us on file, it is the fastest way to receive payment. It will be deposited directly into your bank account. Otherwise, a check will be mailed out, and it will take a few days on the road. It may get lost, and also checks have to be signed by a board member, so it will take a while for checks to be processed. So we generally prefer a direct deposit. Don't be late for assignments. This is quite straightforward. Always bring a copy of the invoice with you. So what this is, I'm actually going to see if I can take you to this link. Oops, MCIS languages. Okay, this link is wrong. I might as well update it right here. I'm gonna see if I can find the proper link for you. .com. There we go. It should be MCISlanguages.com forms. I'm going to update the presentation. There we go. So when you get to this page, you will see that the third PDF file down the page is called Interpreter Invoice Payroll with Instructions. When you click on that file, this opens. You can read the instructions here, but what you need to print out and bring with you is this first page. You can print multiple copies, and it says here, submit invoices twice a month by the 31st and 15th of each month. So you write your name here, the language that you speak here, and if you speak more than one language, I would generally try to, you don't have to separate them by invoice. So if you do, for example, 2 Portuguese assignments, 3 Spanish ones, if you're trilingual, you can put them all down here, but maybe just put a note somewhere on the side what the language is, or just write both languages in the languages column. The month is important. HST number is needed if you own a business, if you have registered, only if you have registered a business with Canadian Revenue Agency and they have provided you with an HST number. Put something there only if you have that number. So print this invoice and bring it with you to every assignment. Okay, so I've updated that presentation, which is great. Let's continue on. Oh, don't worry about the video registration. That's actually something else. Don't worry about that. Now, distribution of assignments. This is how we will find interpreters for assignments. When we look at an assignment requirement, we will decide the region the assignment falls under, and then we will look into our system in the following list of priorities. Priority 1 is professional accredited interpreter. This means that you have completed all training requirements and you have been properly language tested for that language combination, and you have received the results back either through the ILSAT test, CILSAT test, or our own test, which is called the MLAT. So that is the first group of people we go through. If there is no one available for that particular assignment in that region for that time period, we will then look at language aids tested. This means you have been tested for the language. In other words, you have passed the ILSAT, CILSAT, or MLAT tests, but you have not completed all training requirements. Then basically now your designation is language aid tested, and you're the next group up. The next group is called language aids. Now, what this means is that you have completed the INT 101 module on our website, but you have not completed the ILSAT, CILSAT, or MLAT testing. And finally, in extreme circumstances, this is under 1% of all assignments with MCIS, we may send an applicant. An applicant basically means you are currently you applied to training, but you have not even done the INT 101 module. Like I said, less than 1% of the time, and we try our best not to send applicants on any assignments at all. Additional considerations may fall into place, whether you have signed a contract or not, whether you have the vulnerability sector check with the police, whether you have other qualifications. Uh, what this means, other qualifications, what this could mean are those continued competence modules, which I will discuss later. How much experience you have, and ability to travel, which means when we basically asked you to fill in a application, or we have asked you whether you drive or not, so the ability to travel. Track record, this is basically the disciplinary program, disciplinary program, which I will talk about shortly. Here it is, Interpreter Progressive Disciplinary Program. So we do issue warnings and strikes for interpreters who behave poorly on assignments. For example, strike 1 is issued at the time of 2 interpreter no-shows, which means you don't show up for your assignment twice, or you have showed up 4 times late for an assignment, or 1 no-show and 2 lates. Strike 1 will expire after 6 months, and then from that point on, the strike system will begin counting again. Strike 2 is 4 interpreter no-shows or 8 interpreter lates, or 2 no-shows and 4 lates. Strike 2 expires after 12 months. Interpreters they may be recommended to be suspended for 2 months after strike 2. Now, you may also receive strikes for other types of misconducts other than no-shows and lates. For example, if you have offended anyone, or you have argued with a client, or basically stepped out of your role significantly on an assignment, or you have basically displayed conduct not befitting of an interpreter, then you may be issued a strike as well. Strike 3, we all know what this means in baseball terms, basically means you're out. 6 no-shows or 12 lates, or 3 no-shows and 6 lates. The interpreters are permanently deactivated after strike 3. An appeal process may be requested to the manager. This presentation requires some update. Axel is now manager. The interpretation services manager, Axel Van Gel, and this is his email, axel@mcis.on.ca, to appeal any of the strikes or basically deactivation, and he may decide at his discretion to bring you back as an interpreter. Once you make an appeal process, a written decision will be basically formed within 30 days or less, and you will be notified. Your investments as an interpreter. A cell phone is one of the best ideas. Most people will have cell phones nowadays. Some don't. Now, the advantage of having a cell phone is that if we begin calling you to see if you're available for assignments, the person with the cell phone will answer faster, especially when they're out, and they may snatch up the assignment before anyone who goes home to check their messages can even hear about the assignment. Caller ID is generally a good idea, so you can tell who's calling. We are also looking into more innovative ways to source assignments. So possibly in the future, we may have a message distribution system, or even use an app to distribute or notify interpreters of assignments. So it's a really good idea to have a cell phone or smartphone. If you drive, a GPS is one of the best investments you can make. This is really good for traveling to places which are foreign to you. If you do not drive, a transit pass, a monthly metro pass, definitely a good idea to cut down on the transportation costs. Of course, you don't need to buy a metro pass unless you begin receiving a decent number of assignments to justify its expense. Internet connection at home. This is good, especially if you want to sign up to our preferred interpreter or priority interpreter program. This is something you may hear more about. Whenever we need more of these priority interpreters, we will let everyone know. Basically, what it is a calendar sharing system with MCIS, where we would not call to confirm assignments with you, but we will just place the assignments on a calendar, and you're expected to show for the assignments. This definitely is more convenient and for us and for the IS or interpreting services coordinators, but it may be advantageous for you as well to receive more assignments from MCIS. It's something, like I said, we will contact you about in the future, but it's good to have internet connection at home. Now, this is also true for video interpreting assignments. Dictionaries, some of you may have purchased dictionaries during training. If not, I would recommend having one with you handy to bring to assignments. It's You may think it's bad form or inappropriate to begin flipping a dictionary or interrupt clients to flip a dictionary to look up certain terms. However, it's actually better to interrupt them and ensure that the ideas that you're communicating are accurate and there is no confusion, or there are no guesses, and in the words that you're speaking, in the messages that you're conveying. It's actually better to check a dictionary and delay the conversation, than to guess the meaning of certain words or phrases and then potentially risk having the wrong meaning conveyed. Now, some courts do not allow electronic devices because they are afraid there may be a recording feature or that it may be distracting, any beeps, for example. So it's actually better to have a paper dictionary with you. How to maintain a relationship with MCIS? Always keep us updated with your most current contact information, your availability, the willingness to travel, etc. Basically, let us know. I am actually one of the best people to contact to update this information. I being Jack, of course, and my email address is jack@mcis.on.ca. Actually, a better email to send would be with that information would be either training@mcis.on.ca or recruitment@mcis.on.ca. This way, it always reaches somebody. Update your credentials. What this means is possibly the Advanced Court Interpreter Training Program, Advanced Medical Interpreting Terminology Program. These are both programs that we have at MCIS, etc., or any other credentials. For example, if you become accredited with other agencies, anything that's related to languages, you may let us know. Provide high quality, reliable service. Of course, this is important. Now, this is the part that's actually very important for you, which is future development as an interpreter. I may have mentioned to you before, or you may have seen during your training, when you receive accreditation from MCIS as a community interpreter, it is basically valid for the entire province of Ontario. And since other provinces in the country have a credentials matching program with Ontario, it is essentially valid throughout the country. And you may apply to any other community interpreting agencies within the area you live in, or for example, if you move. So you can definitely do that as a community interpreter to potentially expand the amount of work you receive. However, community interpreting is essentially the beginning of an interpreting career. Although many interpreters move up to doing higher levels, basically more complicated and potentially higher earnings form of interpretation. But at the interpreting level, keep in mind that this is the level where the people that you're helping require your help the most. These are really the people in the communities who need to apply for services, who need to get help from certain government agencies that really don't speak English or French, and they really need your help. So even if you advance to other forms of interpreting, keep in mind that perhaps you still want to do community interpreting. That being said, I do recommend and I urge everyone to advance as an interpreter. So let's look at the possibilities. If you want to grow yourself as an interpreter towards legal interpreting, two of the organizations you can look into is IRB, which is the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, and also MAG, which is the Ministry of Attorney General, which basically are the courts in Ontario. And I have the link to the web pages here, and you may take a moment to write it down or perhaps take a photo of it with your cell phone, pause the presentation to do so. The IRB link these are links to apply as an interpreter. Now, to work with the Immigration and Refugee Board or MAG, you need to pass their accreditation exams. So yes, after the exam process at MCIS, at the interpreter level, there are additional accreditation exams. The IRB exam basically will test your legal terminology abilities in a hearing environment, and in general, these are related to refugee situations of the countries that speak your language. So you should be familiar with those terminology, and also I guess the current political situations in those countries. With the Ministry of Attorney General, their accreditation exam is actually very difficult and to pass. To give you an idea, Mandarin being one of the most popular or most widely spoken foreign languages, In Ontario, there are currently only, at the time of this presentation, only five fully accredited MAG interpreters for that language. That gives you an idea of how difficult the exam is. It's also difficult to receive an invitation to write the exam at the Ministry of Attorney General because it is generally a free process, and they will only, because of that, however, they will only invite people that they think have a high chance of passing, and only when the language is required by the courts. In general, the languages are always in demand, but it's a good idea to have additional credentials as a legal interpreter or significant experience or training as a legal interpreter before you apply to MAG. Now, as for medical, one of the most basically the most widely known or popular employers of medical interpreters is UHN, or University Health Network. I wasn't able to find the website of well, UHN, yes, but to find the link to apply as an interpreter, the best I found was this page, which is, well, if you look up on Google, UHN interpreter application, the first link will take you to language services, where it explains language services with UHN. It's an alliance of hospitals, basically, in Ontario, and it's one of the biggest employers of medical interpreters. You may be able to find more information on how to work for them. Now, in order to work for UHN as a medical interpreter, you need a few things. You need core competencies training, which is what you did with MCIS language services. You need to pass the OSAT or CILSAT test, which hopefully you have. In addition to that, you also require a course in medical terminology training. This is offered by certain colleges and organizations. We also have this training, and this is what this link is here for: professional development. This is the link, mcislanguages.com/careers/professional-development. There you will see the sign-up links to the advanced core interpreter training and also the advanced medical interpreting terminology training classes at MCIS. The first one is very good to have on your resume when you apply to MAG as a court interpreter, because as I mentioned, they generally tend to invite people to take the accreditation exam when they have more credentials towards legal interpreting, because I said the test is free, so they want to only test people who have the potential to pass or to achieve higher standings. And the Advanced Medical Interpreting Terminology course is valid for applying to UHN. Now, if you want to further improve yourself, or if legal medical is not for you, consider becoming a conference interpreter. This is available in a limited number of languages only. So you must be a speaker of English and French or Spanish or Russian or Mandarin or Arabic or Portuguese. I will add this to this list actually. In order to apply to a conference interpreting program here in Toronto. Again, French, Arabic, Russian, Mandarin, Spanish, Portuguese. The program is with Glendon College of York University, and the link to it is here, www.glendon.yorku.ca/interpretation. Conference interpreting will train you to become a conference interpreter for settings such as states meetings, heads of state meetings, working for the European Parliament, working for the United Nations, or the Translation Bureau of Canada is also an employer, basically for political or business settings where interpreters are generally compensated a significantly higher amount of money compared to other forms of interpretation. Conference interpreting in general will pay, I would say, between $700 to $1,500 a day. That's the range in Canada, depending on the language you speak and I guess the region the conference is held and the rarity of the language. So this is a master's program that Glendon hosts. It's a 2-year program, and in order to apply to it, you must have a valid bachelor's honors degree as well. You must submit a statement of intent. All the information is at that link. So these are some of the paths you may develop as an interpreter in the future. But definitely community interpreting is a good step, and it's a great first step to take towards any career advancement as a interpreter. So that is it for the presentation. I would like to thank you for participating in the training program at MCIS Language Services. And I hope that you have learned a lot, and I hope that it helps you in your future career development, whether as an interpreter or as on another path in another industry, because your language skills, the things you learn as an interpreter, for example, how to cope with ethical dilemmas, professional conduct, things like that, will help you in every career path. For example, as a police officer, perhaps, or a government employee. And it's generally good to have interpreter training. So again, if you have any additional questions for me, you can email me, which is my email address is you can reach me at training@mcis.on.ca. That's my email address. I will just show it on my screen very quick. And that is generally the address for the training coordinator at MCIS, although currently it's reaching me, who is the resource development supervisor. My name is Jack. I am, again, the resource development supervisor at MCIS Languages, so you can reach me there. Um, remember to keep us updated with your change of address, updates to contact information, languages, and things like that, and credentials and things like that. So once again, thank you very much for participating in our training program, and I wish you all the best in future endeavors.